What's going on, Jerome's? Your Minnesota Vikings have announced their initial 53-man roster for the start of the 2023 NFL season. And I was wondering, would Kwesi be like Rick Spielman, who the Vikings always seem to announce their official 53 an hour after the deadline, at least. And Kwesi was a little tardy last year, and this year 30 minutes. No big deal. It's not like the media jackals have a deadline or something. Although I certainly do not consider myself one. But the initial 53 has been set, and we'll walk through who made it and who has been cut and waived. And starting at 11 a.m. Central Time tomorrow, teams may start piecing together their practice squads after waivers due process. So at quarterback, Cousins, Mullins, Jaren Hall making the 53. You love to see it. Waived is Jordan Ta'amu. And I think Jaren Hall did solidify himself in the final preseason game that he's worth keeping a spot on the 53, as well as, they did want to subject him, trying to get him onto waivers initially. Running backs wise, so keeping three tailbacks, Madison, Chandler, Kinkenny. And in terms of saving roster space, which the Vikings did need, which we'll get into, it makes sense where Dwayne McBride, he showed a little something in the final preseason game against Arizona, but he really had been pretty uneven throughout most of training camp and preseason. I think it's clear that he is probably going to be a practice squad candidate. Same thing with Aaron Dykes. But as of right now, maybe they have faith in Kinkenny's health going forward, or they could turn around and put Kinkenny on injured reserve short term very quickly, and maybe they bring in a veteran running back, like maybe they do sign Kareem Hunt, maybe they do sign James Robinson, etc. But Madison's clearly running back 1, and Ty Chandler clearly running back 2, CJ Ham fullback 1, the best fullback in the league. 6 wide receivers kept, and it's pretty straightforward. Jefferson, Addison, KJ, Jalen Reagor, who has been the subject of some trade rumors. Brandon Powell has definitely earned his spot, and Jalen Naylor, they're betting on potential. Kevin O'Connell loves him. Keenan McCardle is pounding on the table when the Vikings drafted him last year, 5th round out of Michigan State. Been hurt through most of training camp, but he must have left enough of an impression during OTAs and minicamp for him to stick around on 53. Cut and waived, Tristan Jackson, Blake Prohl, 2 guys who I thought had a very good shot to make the roster, especially Jackson. Maybe he sticks around on the practice squad. Thayer Thomas, who unfortunately muffed his chance to make the 53, has been talked about as being a practice squad candidate. And then also Lucky Jackson and Jacob Copeland, no go. 4 tight ends. And also, I think this speaks to how much 21 personnel they want to play. But Hockenson, Oliver, Munt. Also, it could speak to maybe they're concerned about TJ's health a little bit. I don't know. But also, Nick Muse, your company's computer guy, last year's 7th round pick, was on the practice squad, played well in the preseason games. He makes it. Ben Sims was waived. I think that he would be a practice squad candidate. And Colin Thompson, the tight end and long snapper, also cut. Vikings keeping 8 on the offensive line. So, to me, this is a clear sign that they're going to add another body along the offensive line, whether it's a free agent or a waiver claim, because teams generally have 9 to 10 offensive linemen, and having 8 is just odd. But Darisaw, Ezra, Bradbury, Ed Ingram, Brian O'Neill, Shalutman, Brandel, and Udo are your 3 current backups. Cut and waived, Alan Ali, Jack Snyder, who I think should and could be on the practice squad. Same thing with Josh Sokol, Jared Williams, Christian Dolaro, waived. Vadarian Lowe traded his ass to the Patriots, as well as Chris Reed, was officially placed on NFI. He will miss the first 4 weeks of the season. Defensively, so keeping 5, it's technically 6 as of right now, but Phillips, Tonga, Dean Lowry, I think those are going to be your 3 starting defensive linemen. Jonathan Bullard, nice veteran depth, as well as Jaquelin Roy. Let's go. 5 offensive linemen. Now, Junior Aho has a roster exemption right now. I'm sure they'll just swing him over to the practice squad, where he also does not count. So the Vikings will have 17 players on their 16-man practice squad. Cut and waived nose tackle TJ Smith, who had himself a pretty decent preseason. Blacklock and Sheldon Day were waived earlier in the day. Sazio Tamawell, 5th round pick last year, but turned into a bit of a numbers game. I think that he would be a clear-cut practice squad candidate, and also rookie UDFA nose tackle Calvin Avery was also waived. Edge rushers keeping 5, so Daniil, Davenport, Wanham, and Patrick Jones second all make sense. Andre Carter II must have decided that it was easier to get Villain through waivers versus Carter II. Even though Carter II hasn't really flashed too much, they obviously invested a lot in him as a UDFA this year. Villain, last year's UDFA, who spent his entire season on the 53. We'll see if he gets through waivers. I think clearly would be a practice squad candidate. And Benton Whitley played really well in preseason as well, but he is let go. Off balls, so Pace, Asma, Hicks, and Dye, and cut waived Troy Reeder, Tanner Vallejo, who I think could be a practice squad candidate, Wilson Huber, as well as Abraham Beauplan was waived with an injury designation, so if and when he goes unclaimed, he will revert to Vikings season-ending injured reserve. Vikings currently carrying 5 cornerbacks. But really 4, because Najee Thompson was more of a special teamer, does not play a ton of cornerback. It's sort of like how Marcus Sherrills was always listed as a cornerback. But Blackman, Evans, Murphy, and Booth Jr., I think it's clear that the Vikings will be in the market of adding a cornerback at this stage. Cut and waive Jawan Williams, obviously they want him on the practice squad. Jalen Williams, the UDFA slot from Indiana. Tay Gowan was waived with an injury designation, and Jameson Houston and the speedster Kalon Barnes also released. Vikings, 6 safeties. So obviously Brian Flores likes to cook with the safeties, use multiple safeties in his base defense, but Harrison, Bynum, Metellus, Lewis Seen, Carrion, my J-Word's son, as well as Theo Jackson in that mix. Cut and waived was Jake Gervais, who's been here for like 2 seconds. Now, having this many tight ends and having this many safeties could mean that the Vikings are a little bit worried about the health of Hawkinson or Lewis Seen, but that remains to be seen. And then Greg Joseph, Ryan Wright, and Andrew DePaulo is your trio of special teamers. But a couple of random thoughts and takeaways as we scroll back up to the top. So thoughts. 4 tight ends, again, speaks to 21 personnel and also what they feel about Nick Muse, that he probably wouldn't have gotten through waivers. Only 8 offensive linemen. Yes, I think they do add an O-lineman either through waivers or free agency. 6 safeties kept is the most in team history. It speaks to how many safeties Flores is going to use, and also potentially the health of Lewis Seen. 5 of 6 2023 draft picks made the roster. The only one who didn't make it was 7th rounder running back DeWayne McBride, who could and should be on the practice squad. Then 3 UDFAs, Pace Jr., Carter II, and Najee Thompson, all making the initial 53. Then 8 of 10 2022 draft picks, which was Kwesi's first class, made the roster. The only ones who didn't get through was Asazi, last year's 5th round pick, as well as Vidarian Lowe, last year's 6th round pick, who's traded to New England. But that's it. That's it. That's the Vikings' initial 53-man roster. Let us know your thoughts and our thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But next time, Skull Production Value.